Let me tell you something strange about the present moment. Everyone talks about it like it's this peaceful place you're supposed to live in. Like if you're not fully here, something's wrong with you. Like you're broken, distracted, undisciplined. But if that were true, why do so many people struggle with it? Think about it. You sit down to eat, and your mind's already somewhere else. You finally get a quiet moment, and instead of enjoying it, you start thinking about what's next, or what you should have done differently, or what's coming later. And the worst part is, you notice it happening, but you can't stop it. If that sounds familiar, this video isn't here to fix you. It's here to explain you. Because not being able to live in the present doesn't mean you're careless or ungrateful or bad at life. In fact, a lot of people who struggle with this are actually the most self-aware, thoughtful, and mentally active people in the room. Their minds don't go quiet easily, not because they're weak, but because they're always working. You might even hear people say things like, just relax, stop overthinking, be mindful, as if your brain has an off switch you're choosing not to press. But here's the thing nobody really talks about. If your mind keeps drifting away from the present, it's usually not because you don't want to be here. It's because, on some level, your mind doesn't feel safe slowing down. And that's not a failure, that's a pattern. Some people grew up learning that staying alert mattered, that thinking ahead mattered, that being ready for what's next was how you avoided pain, disappointment, or chaos. So now, even when life is calm, their nervous system doesn't fully trust it. Silence feels unfamiliar, stillness feels suspicious, and the present moment it feels exposed. So instead of being here, your mind escapes to the future, to the past, to plans, worries, what-ifs, and unfinished thoughts. And if you've ever wondered why you can be physically in a moment that's supposed to be good, a day off, a quiet evening, a small win, and still feel restless inside, you're not alone, and you're definitely not broken. You're just carrying a mind that learned to survive by staying somewhere other than right here. And once you understand that, everything about this starts to look very different. Let's slow this down for a second and actually look at how this shows up in real life. Because it's not dramatic, it's subtle, it's quiet. You wake up in the morning, and before you even get out of bed, your mind's already moving. You're thinking about what needs to get done, what you forgot yesterday, what today's probably going to feel like. Your body's still there, but you're already somewhere else. You might be doing something simple, drinking coffee, taking a shower, walking outside, and instead of experiencing it, you're narrating it in your head, planning the next hour, replaying a conversation, mentally fast-forwarding to later, like the present moment is just something to get through. Even during moments that are supposed to feel good, your mind doesn't fully land. A quiet evening doesn't feel peaceful, it feels unfinished. A break doesn't feel refreshing, it feels undeserved. And rest comes with this low-level guilt, like you should be doing something more important with your time. So you distract yourself. You check your phone without thinking. You scroll even when there's nothing interesting there. You bounce between apps, tabs, thoughts, not because you're bored, but because being fully present feels uncomfortable. And what's frustrating is that you're aware of it. You notice your mind drifting. You catch yourself missing moments. You tell yourself, okay, focus, be here. But the more you try to force it, the more restless you feel, like trying to grab water with your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips away. Sometimes you look around and wonder how other people do it, how they seem relaxed, how they can sit still, how they can enjoy things without overanalyzing them. And you start to assume there's something different about you, something missing. But here's what rarely gets said out loud. Most people who struggle to live in the present aren't careless people. They're not lazy. They're not disconnected from reality. They're usually the opposite. They're hyper-aware. They notice patterns. They anticipate outcomes. Their minds are constantly scanning for problems, for risks, for what's coming next. So the present moment doesn't feel neutral to them. It feels exposed. Because when you're fully here, there's nothing to prepare for, nothing to fix, nothing to plan. And for a mind that learns safety through thinking ahead, that can feel deeply unsettling. That's why silence feels loud. That's why stillness feels awkward. That's why peace feels temporary. And if you've ever had this weird experience where time keeps moving, days keep passing, life keeps happening, but it feels like you're watching it instead of living it, that's part of the same pattern. You're not absent because you don't care.
You're absent because your mind is always on duty. And the hardest part? You don't even remember when it started. It feels like this is just how your brain works, like this is who you are. But it wasn't random, and it wasn't your choice. And once you understand where this pattern actually comes from, the story shifts completely.
Here's where most people get it wrong. They think this whole not being present thing is a discipline problem. Like if they just tried harder, focused more, stayed off their phone, everything would click. And when it doesn't, they turn on themselves. They tell themselves they're lazy, or ungrateful, or bad at being mindful. But that assumption, that's the real problem. Because your mind didn't end up this way by accident. If your brain constantly pulls you out of the present, it's not because it doesn't know how to be here. It's because at some point, being here didn't feel safe, and safety matters more to your mind than peace ever will. A lot of people grew up in environments where staying alert was necessary, where things changed fast, where emotions were unpredictable, where relaxing meant letting your guard down, and letting your guard down came with consequences. So your brain adapted. It learned to scan ahead, to replay the past, to think before things happened, to stay one step ahead of discomfort. And that adaptation worked. It protected you. It helped you cope. It kept you functional. But here's the part nobody explains. Once a pattern helps you survive, your nervous system doesn't just drop it when life gets calmer. It keeps running the same program even when you don't need it anymore. So now, even in quiet moments, your brain stays active. Even in safe moments, it stays cautious. Even in peaceful moments, it waits for the other shoe to drop. And then people tell you to just relax. But relaxation isn't a switch. Presence isn't a decision. They're responses. Your mind only settles when it believes nothing bad is about to happen. And if your system learned early on that stillness equals vulnerability, then of course the present moment feels uncomfortable. So let's be clear about something. You're not bad at living in the moment. You're not failing at mindfulness. You're not broken. You're running an outdated survival strategy, one that made sense once, one that helped you get through something, one that just hasn't updated itself yet. And when you look at it that way, the story changes. This stops being about forcing yourself to be here and starts being about understanding why your mind keeps leaving. Because the goal was never to escape the present. The goal was to stay safe. And once you see that, you can finally stop fighting yourself for something you didn't choose in the first place.
To really understand why staying in the present feels so hard, you have to stop thinking of your mind as something that's supposed to make you happy. Your mind's first job isn't happiness, it's protection. At a psychological level, your brain is constantly asking one question: are we safe right now? When the answer is yes, your system can slow down. You can feel grounded. You can actually experience what's happening. But when the answer is uncertain, even subtly, your brain shifts into monitoring mode. And here's the key thing most people miss. Your brain doesn't measure safety based on logic, it measures safety based on memory. If your past taught you that things can go wrong quickly, that calm doesn't last, that being unprepared has consequences, then your nervous system learns to stay alert by default, even when there's no immediate threat. That's why your mind keeps jumping ahead. The future feels useful because it feels controllable. Planning feels productive because it feels protective. The present moment, on the other hand, offers no leverage. You can't prepare inside it. You can't fix it. You can't outthink it. You can only experience it. And for a mind that learned safety through anticipation, that's uncomfortable. This is also why overthinking and productivity often go hand in hand. Staying busy gives your nervous system a sense of control. Thinking ahead creates the illusion that you're preventing something bad from happening, even if nothing bad is actually happening. So when someone says, just be present, what they're really saying is drop your defenses, and your nervous system hears that as a risk, not a suggestion. There's also a reason your mind gravitates toward the past. The past feels familiar. Even when it was painful, it's known. Replaying it gives your brain a sense of understanding. What happened, why it happened, what you could have done differently. It feels like closure, even when it isn't. So your mind bounces between past and future because both feel safer than staying right here. The present is unpredictable, it's unfinished, it's open-ended, and open-ended things make a protective mind uneasy. This is where a lot of people misunderstand themselves. They think their mind is broken because it won't slow down. But in reality, it's doing exactly what it was trained to do. Stay alert, stay prepared, stay ahead, even if it costs you peace. That's why forcing yourself to enjoy the moment rarely works. The more you try to control your attention, the more resistance you feel, because you're not addressing the real issue. The issue isn't focus, it's trust. Your nervous system hasn't learned that it's okay to stop scanning, that it's okay to not be ready, that nothing bad is about to happen if you're fully here. So presence doesn't arrive through effort, it arrives through safety. And safety isn't created by willpower, it's created by experience, by repeated moments where nothing goes wrong even when you're not on guard, by slowly teaching your system that stillness isn't dangerous, that silence doesn't mean something bad is coming. Until that happens, your mind will keep doing what it knows best, not because it wants to ruin the present. So if the present moment doesn't arrive through effort and it doesn't respond to force, then the question changes. It's no longer, how do I live in the present? It becomes, why am I trying so hard to get there? Because the truth is, the present moment isn't something you enter, it's something that shows up when resistance fades. Most people approach presence like a task, like something to achieve, another box to check, another skill to master, and that mindset quietly works against them. The moment you tell yourself you should be present, you've already stepped away from it. You've turned it into a performance, and performance keeps your nervous system alert. What actually keeps you stuck isn't distraction, it's the pressure to be different from how you are right now. When your mind notices, I'm not here, and immediately judges that, it tightens, it tries harder, it grips, and the present slips further away. But here's the subtle shift that changes everything. Presence isn't the absence of thought, it's the absence of resistance to thought. You don't become present by pushing your mind away. You become present when your mind stops needing to run, and your mind only stops running when it feels allowed to be exactly where it is. That's why the most present moments in life usually happen when you're not trying to be present at all, when you're absorbed, when you're relaxed, when you're not monitoring yourself. Presence shows up when your system isn't under evaluation. So instead of asking, why can't I stay in the moment, a gentler question changes the relationship completely. What am I protecting myself from right now? That question doesn't demand an answer. It creates space. And in that space, something interesting happens. The urgency softens, the grip loosens, the need to escape eases. Not because you fixed anything, but because you stopped fighting what was already happening. And when your mind realizes it's not in trouble for drifting, that nothing bad happens when it slows down, it starts to come back on its own, quietly, naturally, without effort. The present moment isn't something your mind forgot how to do, it's something it stopped trusting. And trust doesn't come from force, it comes from permission.
So maybe the real problem was never that you couldn't live in the present. Maybe the problem was that no one ever explained why your mind learned to stay elsewhere. When you look back at it honestly, your drifting mind wasn't careless. It was cautious. It was prepared. It was doing what it thought was necessary to keep you okay. And for a long time, it probably worked. It helped you think ahead. It helped you stay sharp. It helped you avoid things that once hurt. But somewhere along the way, survival became the default, even when life stopped demanding it. So now, the present moment doesn't feel like home. It feels unfamiliar, like a place you haven't fully learned to trust yet. And that doesn't mean you're behind. It doesn't mean you missed something everyone else figured out. It doesn't mean you're bad at living. It just means your system hasn't been given enough proof that it's safe to stop scanning. That's why this isn't about fixing your attention, it's about understanding your protection. Because once you stop treating your drifting mind like a flaw, once you stop shaming yourself for not being here enough, something softens. You don't force yourself into the present, you stop pushing yourself out of it, and slowly, without effort, you start noticing moments where you arrive naturally, a breath, a sound, a pause, not because you tried, but because nothing inside you needed to run. The present moment was never gone, it was just waiting for your nervous system to feel safe enough to stay. So if you're someone who struggles to be here, that doesn't make you disconnected from life. It means you learned how to survive early, and you're still learning how to rest. And that's not a failure, that's a transition.